The night does not arrive all at once here. It settles in layers like fabric laid carefully over a body that will need it. First the light thins, then the sound retreats. At last, even the wind seems to hold its breath. Inside the small house, the air already tastes of iron and old wood. A cold so dry it feels clean. She stands near the window without touching the glass. Frost feathers creep along the frame, rewriting the shape of it, minute by minute. Somewhere beyond the yard, the world has gone still enough that a footstep would feel like a violation. She does not look at the clock. She knows better than to bargain with time. Instead, she listens. The stove ticks as it cools between feedings. The boards answer the temperature with a slow, deliberate creak. Her breath comes out pale, then disappears, as if the room refuses to keep it. She pulls her sleeves down over her hands, not for warmth, but for habit. Habit matters when the temperature falls this far. Outside, the cold is already past the point where it announces itself. At -49, it becomes a presence rather than a sensation. Metal does not complain, it simply fails. Skin does not sting, it goes quiet. She has learned that silence is not peace. Silence is information. It tells her what still works and what has already begun to give up. She moves through the room slowly, counting steps without numbers. The kettle is heavy, even empty. The door to the back room resists her just slightly, swollen by frost. She pauses there longer than she needs to. On the other side is the reason she has not lain down. On the other side is a responsibility that does not sleep simply because the sun has gone. She checks the lamp, the extra blankets folded with their corners aligned, the bucket placed where it will not freeze to the floor. Each small thing is an agreement she made earlier with herself. Break one and the night will notice. She opens the door just enough to let warmer air drift in, just enough to listen. There is a sound she is waiting for, a rhythm so faint it could be mistaken for memory. The stove asks for more wood. She feeds it without looking, feeling the weight of the logs, knowing which will burn too fast. The fire answers with a brief flare, then settles. She closes the iron door and rests her palm on it for a second longer than necessary, absorbing what she can. When she turns back toward the window, the frost has finished another line. The night has made itself comfortable. She does not sit. Sitting would suggest an ending. Instead, she stands, awake by choice, and waits for something that has not yet happened to decide whether it will. By the time the cold reaches this depth, routine becomes a form of shelter. She follows it the way others might follow prayer. Every hour she checks the stove. Every half hour she listens at the door. In between, she does the small maintenance tasks that keep her from thinking too far ahead. She wipes condensation that never quite forms. She straightens objects that will not move on their own. The motions keep blood in her fingers and purpose in her mind. The house is old enough to remember colder winters than this one, but it has also learned new weaknesses. A seam in the wall sighs when the wind changes direction. The latch on the front door must be lifted before it will turn. She notes these things without judgment. Knowledge is warmer than optimism. Outside, the sky is clear, a hard black that reflects nothing. Stars seem closer in weather like this, as if the cold has drawn them down. She opens the back room again, wider this time. The air inside is warmer, thicker. The sound she listens for arrives faint but steady. She nods once, not in relief, but in acknowledgement. This is not over. She adjusts a blanket, careful not to wake, careful not to change the shape of what is already working. The care she gives is practical, almost impersonal. It has to be. Emotion would slow her down. When she closes the door, she leans her forehead against the frame, just for a breath, just long enough to let the weight of staying awake press against her. The night responds with a deeper quiet. Even the wind seems to move elsewhere. She knows this trick. When it grows too calm, the temperature often drops again. Calm is not a gift here. It is a warning. She adds another log to the stove and notices how quickly the flame settles. Wood that once lasted an hour now lasts 40 minutes. She adjusts her internal clock. That means fewer pauses. That means more standing. She accepts it without argument. There are questions that do not help at -49. Her body sends small signals she files away for later. The ache behind the eyes, the stiffness in the knees. She rolls her shoulders, keeps moving. Staying awake is not about willpower so much as it is about respect. The cold punishes arrogance. It rewards attention. At one point, she catches her reflection in the window. It startles her. The face looks older in this light, carved by shadow. She looks away. Identity is another thing that can freeze if you stare at it too long. Better to focus on function. Better to keep listening for changes. She thinks briefly of people who are asleep right now, warm rooms, closed curtains. The thought is not envy. It is distance, different agreements. She has made hers, and the night is holding her to it. Sometime after midnight, the house shifts. Not dramatically, just enough to tell her something has changed. The stove ticks differently. The flame sounds thinner. She feeds it sooner than planned and watches the fire hesitate before catching. That hesitation tightens something in her chest. She does not name it. Naming things gives them too much room. She checks the thermometer nailed near the door. The red line has dropped another mark. Numbers matter less than patterns, but the pattern is clear. The cold is not finished, it rarely is by this hour. She recalculates again, trimming minutes from her routine until there is almost no space between tasks. The night feels narrower now, like a corridor that will not widen if she rushes. When she opens the back room, the sound she waits for falters, not stops, just stumbles. She adjusts the lamp, listens closer. The rhythm returns, but altered. She stays longer this time, counting breaths that are not her own. This is the moment she has been circling all evening. The moment when staying awake stops being precaution and becomes necessity. She could add more blankets. She could increase the heat, burn through wood faster and risk running short before dawn. Each option carries a quiet cost. She weighs them without hurry, even as her pulse picks up. Decisions made in panic have a way of echoing. She chooses the smaller change first. A blanket folded differently. A lamp moved closer. She waits to see if the night accepts the offering. Her legs feel heavy now. Standing has become effort. She shifts her weight, leans against the table, then pushes away from it. Rest is tempting in ways it was not earlier. She understands the danger of that temptation. Sleep is not the enemy, but it is impatient. It takes more than it gives back. Outside, something cracks. A tree shedding a limb under the cold. The sound is sharp, final. She flinches despite herself. The reminder lands where it should. Things break cleanly at these temperatures. There is no warning bend, only sudden release. She pours hot water into a cup she will not drink, just to feel the steam on her face. The moisture freezes to her lashes. She smiles once, briefly, at the absurdity of it. The smile fades as quickly as it came. There is still too much night ahead. If someone were watching her now, they might mistake her stillness for calm. They would miss the constant measuring happening beneath it. Every breath, every sound, every small delay feeds into a decision she knows she may have to make before the sky lightens. Leaving now would be easy. Staying means committing to whatever comes next. The decision does not announce itself. It arrives disguised as another routine check. She opens the back room and knows immediately that the balance has shifted. The sound is there, but weaker. The air feels wrong, too still. She does not close the door this time. She steps inside and lets the colder air of the main room mix with the warmer space, risking a drop she can't afford, because doing nothing is worse. She adjusts everything she can adjust. The lamp, the blankets, the position of the body she is watching over. Her movements are precise, economical. There is no extra motion to waste heat or time. When she finishes, she stays. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she becomes part of the room's equation. Her presence adds warmth, yes, but more than that, it adds vigilance. The stove will need attention sooner now, but she chooses not to leave. This is the trade she makes. She will burn hotter later to compensate. She listens with her whole body, not just her ears. She counts again. The rhythm steadies, then slips, then steadies. Each slip lands like a weight on her chest. Her thoughts narrow to a single line. Stay awake. Not as an abstract instruction, but as a physical act. She pinches her arm when her focus drifts. She changes position when numbness creeps in. The cold presses against the walls, testing for mistakes. She offers none. Time stretches in unfamiliar ways. Minutes feel thick. Hours pass without markers. She thinks of the first winter she spent here, when she still believed preparation could solve everything. Experience has taught her otherwise. Preparation only buys you choices. Tonight, she is spending them one by one. There is a moment deep in the night when exhaustion whispers a lie. Just close your eyes, just for a second. She answers it by standing up, pacing the small room, letting pain sharpen her attention. Pain is honest. It does not pretend to be rest. The sound she listens for grows steadier, not stronger, but more regular. She allows herself one breath of something like relief, then releases it. Relief can turn into carelessness if you hold it too long. She returns to the stove, feeds it generously, watches the flame take. The house responds with a low groan, settling into the heat. When she comes back, she does not sit again. She stands at the door, half in, half out, a bridge between rooms. The decision to stay awake has already been made. Now comes the work of honoring it until morning decides whether it will matter. The longest part of the night arrives just before the cold bottoms out. It is a stretch of hours where nothing improves, but everything can still be lost. She feels it in her bones. The stove demands wood at shorter intervals. Her hands fumble more than they did earlier, fingers stiff despite the heat. She breathes on them, flexes, keeps going. She no longer measures time by the clock. She measures it by tasks completed and tasks still waiting. Another log, another check, another count. The repetition is not boring, it is consuming. Each cycle is a small promise kept. She stacks those promises carefully, knowing one missed step could undo the rest. In the back room, the rhythm holds, not strong but present. She positions herself so she can hear it even while tending the stove. The door stays open now, a risk she accepts. The temperature in the house drops slightly as a result. She compensates with more fire. The woodpile shrinks faster than she planned. Dawn feels very far away. Her body complains louder. Knees ache, eyes burn. She presses her thumb into the base of her palm until sensation floods back. She thinks briefly of writing this night down, of how it might sound to someone who has never known cold like this. The thought passes. There is no audience here, only responsibility. At some point she realizes she has been humming without noticing, a low sound almost swallowed by the room. It keeps her awake, it keeps her present. She stops when she becomes aware of it, not wanting to introduce anything new. The night has enough variables. Outside, the sky lightens imperceptibly. Not dawn, just the suggestion that the dark has limits. She does not trust it yet. Many nights have offered false hope before delivering one last blow. She stays alert, even as her muscles tremble with fatigue. The rhythm in the back room changes again, this time for the better. It grows more consistent, less fragile. She adjusts nothing. Sometimes the best care is restraint. She stands there, listening, letting the sound anchor her. If someone were to ask her later why she stayed awake, she would struggle to answer in a way that made sense. It was not bravery. It was not self-sacrifice. It was alignment. The night required attention, and she gave it. The cold demanded respect, and she did not look away. When the first real light finally touches the frost on the window, it feels earned. She does not celebrate. She does not sit down. She waits for the sun to commit. Morning arrives quietly, as if apologizing for the work it did not do overnight. The temperature remains brutal, but the threat changes shape. Light makes inspection possible. She checks the stove, the walls, the corners where frost likes to hide. Everything that mattered has held. In the back room, the rhythm is steady now, stronger than it was at any point in the night. She allows herself to close the door partway, preserving heat, preserving the balance she fought for. Only then does she sit carefully on the edge of a chair. Sitting no longer feels like surrender. It feels like transition. Her body takes inventory all at once. The exhaustion is heavy but clean. No panic clings to it. She drinks water that is barely above freezing and lets it settle. The house makes daytime sounds now. Small cracks as the sun touches wood. A distant bird, impossibly early. She knows the day will not be easy. There will be more decisions, more care, more nights like this before winter loosens its grip. But this night is finished. It exists now as memory and consequence. She will carry it forward in the way she stacks wood and checks latches, informed but not haunted. As she moves through the room, she straightens the blankets again, out of habit, out of respect. She opens the window just a crack to let fresh air in, then closes it. The cold retreats a fraction, enough. There are people who believe survival is about endurance alone. She has learned it is about attention, about choosing, again and again, to stay present when leaving would be easier. The night tested that choice and found it consistent. When she finally lies down, fully dressed, she does not sleep deeply. She does not need to. Rest comes in layers like the night did. Before her eyes close, she looks once more at the frost on the window, now melting into new shapes. The house breathes with her. Some people escape the cold. Others stay awake inside it and make room for morning.